In this video, we're going to be talking about all of the reasons why you shouldn't become a cybersecurity professional. Now, I've been working in the field for a long time now, and I have seen a lot of people go into cybersecurity with the wrong intentions, with misconceptions about what cyber is really like and what working in the corporate world with cybersecurity is really like. So let's explore all of those reasons based on my experience. Welcome to Cyber with Rajan. I am Rajan Nawal. I have been working in cyber for the last 7 years, been working in IT for the last 10 years plus. I have held roles such as lead security operations analyst. I've worked in insider threat. I'm now currently working as a senior security consultant. So I've got vast experience working in the field from a technical and a non-technical standpoint. So if you're interested in all things cybersecurity, be sure to subscribe to my channel as I'll be releasing weekly videos on cybersecurity. So come join me as part of this journey. Cybersecurity is a hot topic in technology, and a lot of people see it as a really well-paying job and you can earn 6 figures. And don't get me wrong, it can pay you really well, but if you don't have a base level of interest in cybersecurity, you'll soon find yourself in a position where the field will swallow you up and spit you straight back out. I mean, working in cyber is not like the movies. It's not like Mr. Robot or working for Anonymous with a mask and you're hacking all day. There is a real corporate element to working in cybersecurity. In no matter what job you're in, you're still going to have to write emails. You're still going to have to attend meetings. You're still going to have an annual review about your performance. These things are very typical for working in cyber, and don't get it twisted. It is a real job. When I think back to my interest in cybersecurity, it really stemmed from my university degree. Back then, there wasn't cybersecurity degrees or master's degrees in cybersecurity. It was very much a small element of a module within my computing degree. And that sort of really sparked my interest. I got involved in other elements of technology before, but to be honest, I found them quite boring. To me, cybersecurity was the most exciting and fascinating element of technology, and that's where my passion started. So I'd say really think about the reasons why you're getting into cybersecurity. Is it just for the money, or are you actually interested in the field? Do you have a base level of interest? And I'm not telling you you need to become or have a massive passion for it where you're thinking about cybersecurity 24/7. That isn't reality. But you need to have a level of interest in it for you to be able to pursue this career. In my previous role, I managed a cybersecurity analyst who had previously been working as a store manager in a coffee store for 20 years plus. And you might be thinking that's a strange transition into security, but when we interviewed this person, he had a real desire for cybersecurity, a real passion for it. And we knew this because he spent his spare time in labs. He spent his spare time looking at ways in which he can enhance his cybersecurity knowledge from a technical element. And, he even volunteered to shadow us or to spend time with us to upskill before we even made a job offer to him. It gave me confidence in his ability, and this is the type of person that hiring managers are looking for in cybersecurity. Like I said, you don't need to be a crazy ethical hacker who has all of the technical skills in the world, but have the interest there. Cybersecurity is a cat and mouse chase. That's the best way I can describe it. The attackers are always looking at ways to evade security detection, and the defenders are looking to implement security controls to stop them from breaching a system or compromising a system and getting access to data. With that in mind, you need to consider that cybersecurity is a continual learning journey. There is a requirement for you to continually stay up to date with the latest threats, tactics, techniques, procedures from the attackers in order to effectively do your job, basically. Whether you're working in a security operations center, you might have to have a base level of knowledge. For example, at the CompTIA Security Plus exam, you might take that. Or you may find yourself with sort of 4 to 5 years experience and you say, now I want to undertake the CISSP. The learning journey in cybersecurity can be steep when you first start out, so please consider this before you start your journey. It is something that you will need to spend some time on, potentially outside of working hours if you're studying for an exam. You won't always get the opportunity to revise during working hours. You'll have to commit some of your time after work, and if that isn't you, then maybe cybersecurity isn't then the right step for you in your career. There may be weekends that you have to compromise to study for an exam, and to be honest, some of the cybersecurity exams are difficult, especially as you get towards the intermediate advanced level. And I'm not saying All of them are easy in the sort of beginner stage, but you will need to put some work in. And there may be times where you actually fail an exam. Do you have the determination, the desire, the consistency to go and sit that exam again? Or will you just find yourself in a position where you say cybersecurity is not for me because I failed the exam? So think about your interest again, as I say, but think about how much time you have to spend on cybersecurity. If you're someone that doesn't like exams, or that doesn't like the theory-based or the practical-based exams, then potentially cybersecurity is not for you. In my opinion, hands-on experience completely trumps these certifications, and you don't need to become certification obsessed. Certifications don't necessarily equal you getting a job. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a job just because you got a certification, but it is a element of your cybersecurity professional career. Now, with my first job, I had no cybersecurity credentials or cybersecurity certifications when I landed it. But it was something that I soon realized I needed to attain to solidify my foundations and my knowledge. Now, we're always going to have gaps in our knowledge, no matter what stage of your career you're in. But you do need to have a level of technical and non-technical cybersecurity knowledge as part of your journey. Something that is also really important is spending time looking into threat intelligence or cybersecurity articles online, looking at companies that have been breached recently, staying up to date on the latest trends and ways in which organizations have been compromised. Because if you're working in a security team for an organization, and especially if you're in a technical role, there's going to be an expectation for you to keep up with the latest trends, right? You look at the breaches from Microsoft recently, you look at the WannaCry incident from a long time ago, you look at all the recent ransomware trends and the threat actors and the ways in which they are shaping and molding the threat landscape. As a defender or even as a red teamer, you need to spend some time looking into this and almost make it part of your daily routine. So keep that in mind too. Work-life balance can be an interesting topic for discussion in cybersecurity, and depending on which team you work, how big the team is, how much experience the team has, the varying levels of stress differ. In my experience, working in a defender's role in a security operations center can potentially be a stressful environment, especially if you're working on major incidents. There may be a requirement for you to work 24/7 if you're working on a live incident, and you have to think to yourself, is that something you want to do? If you're working as a security analyst and you're investigating a breach on a system, you may have a requirement from your organization to be on call. I remember when I was working I've been on call for several years throughout my career, and it's not always bad, don't get me wrong. There are monetary gains from doing that. You get paid a bit extra, but there have been times where I've been spending time with family on the weekend. On a Saturday, I might be out for dinner with my family or my friends or my wife, and I get a call, and all of a sudden your heart drops and you just know, I'm going to have to end this social event now and pack my bags and go straight back home and jump on a major incident bridge call and investigate this incident, potentially into the early hours of the morning, right? There's lots of steps throughout the, incident security lifecycle, from identification to containment. There's so many actions that you would need to take out of hours if you're working in a defender's role. Now, don't get me wrong. Not everyone needs to work 24/7, and that's a sort of a blue team thing. But working in cybersecurity, there are varying levels of stress. You might be the only security professional in the organization or one of a few. And there's a lot of dependency on you for your knowledge, for your technical insight. A lot of people may look to you because of a lack of budget in that organization. I've worked in companies where the teams have been very small. I worked in organizations where the teams have been quite big. And I find the smaller the role, the smaller the team, the higher the stress levels can be. Now, this is not sort of a flat rule for all roles, but it's something to consider. I mean, even if you work in a red team, for example, there may be tight deadlines on producing a report. Or if you work in the GRC side, there's loads of regulatory compliance deadlines that organizations have to, abide by and ensure that their systems and processes are in line with. So keep this in mind as well, because cybersecurity can be a stressful environment to work in. I think this is a big one and it's often underrated. So you could be the most technical security operations analyst or ethical hacker in the world, but if you can't communicate, you are really going to struggle in the corporate world when it comes to a cybersecurity career. You need to be able to articulate yourself, pronunciate, and to condense technical matters to the business in terms that they can understand. So I've worked with people in the past who were super technical, that had all of the skills and certifications under the sun. But when it came to an incident, they weren't able to summarize the events that they undertook. They weren't able to summarize the actions that they undertook, or they weren't able to provide insight into what the risk of a vulnerability was in layman's terms. And that's something that's really important when working in cyber. You know, even if you're in a technical role, and I know a lot of you are interested in, you know, being in the blue team or in the red team, you have to consider the sort of the communication, the stakeholder element of it, because at the end of the day, although you may be sat behind your screen and, you know, not coding all day, but doing technical things, trawling through logs, writing up reports, investigating suspicious activity on a network, you may be doing all these things for most of your day, but inevitably you still have to attend meetings. You still have to present your findings to people. You might have to do presentations. You might have to present your report. So also keep this in mind if you aren't someone who you feel has the best communication skills, or if you don't have them at the moment, maybe it's something that you can work on. I always encourage people that I've mentored in the past to learn the technical side, but the technical side can be taught. I have hired people who had better communication style and less of a sort of technical element to their experience, because I feel like they can be shaped, they can be molded, they can be taught in comparison to someone who's already set in their ways and, you know, they think they know it all. That's something to consider as well. Problem solving is a big one in cybersecurity. Basically, your DNA is problem solving. You are always looking for a solution to an issue when you're working in cybersecurity, and that is pretty much the story for most roles in cybersecurity, right? I've worked in security operations centers or security engineering type roles where they're looking to implement a solution because, you know, the executive team are receiving a ton of phishing emails and it's bypassing their current security controls. So it might mean that I have to then implement a email security gateway. I've been involved in projects like that in the past, but your mindset really has to be focused on solving problems. And if that's not you, again, consider your position, because no matter what role you're working in, if you're in a red team, right, you may be looking at ways to poke holes in a network, but inevitably you will also be recommending them on how to best protect from it, right? You may be highlighting a problem, but you can then provide a recommendation to say, you know, implement X, Y, and Z security control to stop this from vulnerability from being exploited. You need to have that type of mindset, and it's also important to consider that security is often seen as a blocker in organizations, depending on their current sort of cybersecurity maturity. It can be seen as stopping growth and innovation and stopping an organization from meeting their transformation targets or goals because security is in the way of a project going live, for example. But it's up to you to articulate, and it's up to you to come up with ideas, problems to issues to the business to allow them to understand that. And you need to be able to also take the pressure of that, because, you know, I've worked in roles in the past where, yeah, security is seen as a blocker and as a negative, but it's up to you to change that narrative and to work in that team. In my opinion, it is definitely worth it. Cybersecurity pays you back in ways that, you know, you might not even think about in terms of, you know, career satisfaction, monetary gain. There's a lot of money to be earned in cybersecurity. But just having an interest in IT, like I said before, I've worked in IT roles where I find it absolutely boring. I'm not a programmer, but I've done programming in the past in my degree and also in previous roles. But, you know, I worked in the back end in SAP before, and I'm not knocking anyone that works in it, but personally for me, it wasn't interesting. I didn't find I had a passion for it, but cybersecurity was something that I could get up and although things can seem routine, you may be following a playbook to respond to a ton of alerts in your systems, things are not always the same, and the mentality for dealing with cybersecurity problems is not always the same. There are a lot of factors to consider. There's a lot of perspectives to be gained. So I think it is a fascinating career and it is a very rewarding career, but you need to think, is this right for you? If you're interested in cybersecurity, then why not join me on my journey in teaching you about cybersecurity, in helping you land your first job, in helping you attain your professional certification. So come join me on this journey, subscribe to my channel, drop some comments down below if you have any questions. I'll be more than happy to respond to you. So yeah, thanks again and peace.